just going to start the record. Everything that you say is going to be on camera, and it's going to be on the CSU's YouTube page. Thanks a lot, Eduardo, for starting one. So ever since we've been off of campus, I've been recording the meetings to the cloud and kind of storing them there for a bit, but Eduardo's made a CSU YouTube page, so you can all go access the meetings there.
Question to Caitlin.
Yes?
Can I request excusal?
Yeah, sure. I was just about to get into excusals. So in that case, I will add your name to the list. So for excusals, I have a couple requests from Sean, Zachary, Roman, Margot, and now Hirsch. So if anyone wants to move to excuse them.
Can I move to excuse me if I'm part of the list? Like, can I move to excuse the list if I'm part of the list?
Yeah, why not?
Okay, I'll move to do that.
All right, do we have a second?
Second.
Second by Harrison. Is there any opposition to excusing?
I oppose.
Okay, so I guess we can move to discuss. Who was the opposition, sorry?
Roman.
Sorry. Yeah, I mean Lauren. Do you want to discuss?
I just want to point out that this is like the third meeting in a row that he's missed. And normally we it's an automatic resignation after 3 missed meetings. So I just want to bring it to everyone's attention. Like, council is mandatory, like that we're all present on this date and to attend as many meetings as possible. And I don't particularly like someone that is not present and not fulfilling their duty as a counselor.
All right, thank you. Did you want to split the motion in that case?
Yep, sure, I'll split it.
Okay, so we can deal with the Roman excusal separately. Is there a second for splitting the motion?
Second. Oh wait, no, never mind, I rescind. I thought it was to excuse the rest.
Oh no, sorry, it was just to split the motion. Yeah, does anyone want to second that?
Yeah, I'll second it.
Marlena. Sorry, who said that?
Marlena.
Oh, Marlena, oh hi, sorry.
No problem.
Right, seconded by Marlena. Harrison, go ahead.
Am I allowed to ask a question regarding this, a procedural question?
Yeah.
I'd like to know if in the rules and regulations, a counselor, does it specifically say that they are, that the 3 strikes is for RCMs or SCMs? And has Roman, met that, fell into that ruling? That's basically what I'm wondering, just to clarify the
just to
rules.
clarify, the rules are for regular council meetings only, not special council meetings. Roman I have him as being absent on the June and September meetings, unexcused.
So, okay, June and September. So this is his third, in a sense. This is the
However, the minutes from the June meeting have him as present, so I'm not sure what's going on there. And in this case, usually what would happen if there's a discrepancy between what I have and the minutes have, I would just kind of contact him for clarity.
I can actually kind of answer that.
Yeah, sure, go ahead.
So I don't know the procedure, but usually if someone shows up halfway through the meetings, I will put them as present, but you would have it correct that he wasn't there when you did roll call, neither at the September or the June meeting. It just
thank you so much for clarifying. Thank you. Yeah, it's so what the standing regulations say is if someone's absent for more than 60 minutes. However, it's basically impossible to count 30 counselors, either Michelle while she's writing minutes or me while I'm chairing. So that's where we are on this. I'm not one to kick somebody out without kind of asking for reasons. So usually if we hit 3 absences, what I would do is contact the person, ask them if they want to request a retroactive excusal, because that is a thing that you can do, and then go on from there. So that's how we go on with that. Isaiah, go ahead.
So motion to excuse the non-contentious excusals. So I think that's Hirsch, Margot, and I forgot the last one.
I'll entertain that in just a sec. First, I just want to make sure, is everyone okay with splitting the motion? Is there any opposition to splitting? So we'd vote on one Roman separately from everyone else, because we hadn't voted on that.
I'm not entirely sure I'm comfortable with that, considering, well, as Matthew has pointed out, Roman was actually present in the last meeting.
Hey,
So,
showing up at 12 a.m. is
Oh,
not,
Roman was excused at the last meeting, so that one's a moot point.
and he showed up at like midnight, so he missed like 3 or 4 hours of that meeting.
But regardless, it was an excusal. So Hirsch, are you like opposed to splitting? I just want to keep it moving here.
give me a minute to think about it.
Okay, there's no one on the speakers list.
Yeah, I oppose splitting.
Okay, so in that case, we'll move to a vote to split the motion and
You know what? Never mind. I'll split and then.
okay, yeah, because if you're against it, you can just vote against it at the vote. Okay, so the motion is split. We will vote on, what are the names? We will vote on Sean, Zachary, Margot, and Hirsch, and then Roman. So Isaiah, you had moved to excuse the other four. Is there a second for excusing Hirsch, Margot, Roman, Hirsch, Margot, Zachary, and Sean?
Second.
Second by Lauren. Is there any opposition? Okay, so that carries unanimously. And then we're on the motion to excuse Roman. Is there anyone who wants to discuss?
Can we just kind of put that at the end? I feel like there are more pressing things that we should be discussing.
The regs say that it has to be dealt with immediately.
Okay,
Sorry.
never mind.
Okay, well, if not, I mean, there's no discussion, so we can just move right away to a vote and then get into the external presenters who have so nicely graced us with their presence. Harrison, did you want to say something?
Yeah, sorry, that was an accident.
Oh, no problem. Okay, so we'll move to a vote. So if you're voting yes, it means you want to excuse Roman. If you're voting no, it means you do not. And if you're abstaining, it means you are abstaining. Jared, are you here? Not here. Diana? Not here. And I will take the opportunity to do roll call. Harrison, how do you vote?
I vote to excuse Roman.
Thank you. Chelsea?
I vote to excuse Roman.
To excuse Howard? Don't think it's here. Jeremiah? Also not here. Lauren?
I vote not to excuse him.
No. Zachary is not here. Aryeh, how do you vote? Aryeh?
I vote to excuse him and hope he can start coming.
All right, thank you. Sarah, how do you vote?
I vote not to excuse him.
No. Margot, how do you vote? Oh, Margot's not here. Sorry, she was excused. Shivani, how do you vote?
I vote to excuse.
Excuse. Marlena, how do you vote?
Not to excuse.
That's no. Yasmin, are you here? Not here. Chris, how do you vote?
I vote to excuse.
Excuse. Matthew, how do you vote?
I vote to excuse.
To excuse. Not here. Sean, how do you vote? Sean's not here. Anais, how do you vote?
I vote to excuse.
Yes. James. Not here. Desiree. Not here. And Hirsch.
I vote to excuse.
Excuse, thank you. So that is 5, 6, 7, 8 yes, 3 no, and 0 abstention. Oops, 4, 11. Yeah, so that is a 2/3, I believe we need. I'll confirm that in a second. So either way, it's 2/3, so that carries to excuse. So Roman will be excused. And if there is nothing further on this, I just took roll call at the same time. We can move to approval of the agenda. So if anyone has anything to add, remove, amend, now is the time.
I would like to pull the minutes for sustainability.
Okay.
I mean, let me rephrase that. Is there a way I can add an agenda point on that without pulling it?
Yeah, if you want. Now's the
Okay,
time.
can I do that instead?
Sure. Do you want it to be called Sustainability Committee?
No, I'd like it to be called Committee Quorum.
Lauren, go ahead.
Like, I just want to say, like, guys, like, this is really important work that we do, and I really want you guys to all show up. So it's like, I'm going to be keeping track of this and keeping after you guys to show up. Like, even though Roman did get excused, like, that's fine. Like, the goal of this was more of to show, like, take this seriously, guys. Like, please do not miss meetings is all I gotta say on that.
All right, thank you. And if ever anyone wants to know the status of absences, you can ask me. Shivani, go ahead.
Could I move the police brutality position as far up the agenda as possible, preferably after the established?
Yep, because you said there's external presenters, right?
I'll second that.
Okay, thank you.
Thank you.
Eduardo, go ahead.
I'm not sure if you've done this already, but just remove seed from the agenda.
Yeah, I did that after our discussion earlier. So Seed will not be here. Was there anything else?
Thank you. No.
Thank you. And James, go ahead.
Yeah, so can I add a motion like with the referendums about the bylaw referendum, because we still have a bit of unfinished business with that?
Bylaws? Which one? Sorry?
Yeah, so remember when we sent the sexual violence and code of conduct off to referendum?
Yes.
And afterwards we realized that section 2 should probably stay as a standing regulation.
Right.
We kind of need to motion to remove section 2 from the referendum.
All right, can put that. And Isaiah, we had talked before the meeting about adding something about the bylaws. Is that still on the table? For the engineering seats? Bylaws, by-elections for the engineering seats?
Yes.
Okay, perfect. So that is good. That will be added. Is there anything else? Okay, oh, yeah, go ahead. James, did you have something else?
Yeah, maybe.
Maybe.
Eduardo, do you think it's just better to do this as an SCM? I think you know what I'm talking about.
No. That's not. No.
Sorry.
Because it's a typo in what went out for the elections. There's one more open seat in engineering, so that just needs to be corrected.
No. It's not about that. I'm asking Eduardo about the referendum questions.
Well, James, I'll just say that we are running out of time towards the elections, so.
So do we want something
on? I don't know how you want to handle that. I'm leaving that up completely to you. But the elections are on the 17th, I believe.
This is the last meeting where you can add referendum questions is all.
Well, like even if we do SCM?
Oh, no, in that case, no, it has to be before the campaign, the day before the campaigning period. I have to submit everything. And campaigning, I believe, is November 4th?
Monday.
Oh, no. It's Monday, okay. November 2nd.
Wait, actually, no, it might be.
Oh, it's Wednesday.
Yeah, Wednesday, okay, it's the 4th.
Okay, all right, well, I'll just do it as SCM.
Okay, so in that case, that is all good. If there is nothing further, I just need a motion to approve the agenda and all items under consent.
Motion to approve the agenda and all items under consent.
Thank you. Do we have a second?
Second.
Second, I didn't see who that was.
Harrison.
Oh, Harrison, thank you. Is there any opposition to approving the agenda?
Can we have like a full agenda, like an amendment?
Yeah, I'm gonna send it out.
Yeah.
Okay, so in that case, there is no opposition, so that carries unanimously, and we can move on to the presenters. So beginning here, we have the Concordia Bus Co-op referendum question, and Dimitri is here to present for us.
Yeah, hey guys. So I'm from Concordia Bus Co-op. So we're an organization that plans to provide cheap bus tickets from Montreal to locations such as downtown Toronto, New York, and Boston by bus service. And we're asking for 29 cents per credit fee levy on the referendum. and I'm just here to gain approval to start collecting signatures for the referendum.
All right, thank you. Do you have a proposed referendum question with the wording?
Yes. So, contingent on public health officials deeming it safe to restore travel, would you be in favor of creating a student-run transportation service to connect McGill campus to downtown Toronto, Manhattan, and Boston by bus service on weekends and holidays?
All right, thank you. So in that case, Dimitri is here to fulfill the requisite coming to council to get the question to give it to council, but not necessarily for approval before collecting signatures. So is there anyone who has any questions or wants to discuss? Oh, Malcolm, go ahead.
Yeah, is it only going to be for Concordia students?
So we have like different branches at different schools. So we started at McGill last semester before COVID hit, but it's gonna be for students only. So the funding from the Concordia Phi Levi will be towards the Concordia branch of our organization.
Mm-hmm. And is there a reason why it's going to be starting at McGill campus if it's going to be a Concordia fee levy?
No, it's just because we started at McGill last semester, and we're trying to reach out to Concordia. We're trying to provide the same service for Concordia students as well. So we're also gonna go for the McGill referendum as well.
Okay, thank you.
All right, thank you. Daniel, go ahead.
Can I amend it to change McGill to Concordia?
No, because it's not coming here to get council's approval. It's just for suggestions.
Okay, well maybe that should be a suggestion to have it be like our university. If anything, I'm trying to picture like the route that it would take. It can be like a middle point between McGill and Concordia, and then maybe at the Loyola campus, and then you can do the McDonald campus for McGill while you're going down the highway, you know?
Oh no, sorry. Yeah, we're planning on picking up students at both McGill and Concordia campuses.
Okay, because that's the only part of the referendum question that is that's inconsistent.
Oh yeah, sorry, I did not realize, but thank you for letting me know.
All right, thank you. Lauren, go ahead.
I got a whole stream of questions here. First is, how many students use your service currently?
So we've only had the opportunity to have one run because it was right before COVID hit, and we sold out a full bus. It was around 50 students going to New York and then back. We had both McGill and Concordia students use our service back then, and so yeah, we're planning to restart back in January hopefully, but depends on how like the travel restrictions are.
Yeah, so that's the biggest thing for me is on a committee level, my committee decided that anything that kind of goes against like COVID regulations or like restrictions right now is going to be on hold until the red zone is listed, or until like we are in a position where like we approve of this service and like it's health and safety for our students. So I'm just curious, like, I mean, you said that you're going to shuttle people back and forth between McGill and Concordia. Like, I mean, you said you were going to Boston, New York, like the border's closed. Like most people aren't going to be traveling right now. Like, why is this service needed in this current moment?
So we're going for the winter referendum. So, and I believe if we do get funding, it will be for the summer. So, I mean, it's hard to say what will happen by then. But to start, if the borders do remain closed, we will start with McGill and Concordia, so like Montreal to Toronto. And then we believe that as things open up, students will need to travel back and forth from their homes, maybe in Toronto, or even just do travel to Toronto for like a weekend or something.
Well, I'm just curious because Concordia is mostly made out of commuter people. Like our international population is quite large. And like it would just mainly be for like US international students or like I guess people that want to go on vacation, but most of the people that go to Concordia live in Montreal. So also, did we receive a budget breakdown for this referendum question?
I know there's no breakdown because it's just to collect signatures right now.
Okay.
Yeah, Keelan, can I just speak on this quite really quickly?
Yeah, sure. If you want to respond, go ahead.
Yeah, so just wanting to state the rules for those of us who might not be familiar with them. For a fee levy to begin the process of becoming a fee levy, they have to first come to council, send a draft question, which they read to council, and just say, we're going to now start collecting signatures. They're going to collect the signatures. Once they collect the signatures, they have a deadline. It's December 7th this year. They have to submit it to us with also budgets, documentation, constitution, internal complaints policy, and there's like quite a few other things. And then as a committee, the fee levy review committee, we're going to read over it for several months, get back to them, tell them if we need anything, it needs to be fixed. And then if everything goes well, they would be in the general elections in March, not the by-elections, this doesn't approve anything right now. This is just them announcing they're starting the process. And the first step to start the process is they got to show you a question.
So like for this, that means that like any issues that we have with this referendum question is going to go through the fee levy committee?
Yep.
Okay, cool. That's what I want to know. Thanks, Eduardo.
It's also the same for the next group that's going to be presenting.
Oh, awesome. Thank you so much for clarifying. Harrison, go ahead.
Hi, I just wanted to start off by saying I think this is really a fantastic idea. But when I'm looking at the math of it, like the finances of it, I did a rough estimate. You were saying you were asking for how much per credit?
29 cents.
Right, so I just roughly did it for 20 cents, okay? So I roughly did it for 20 cents and I tried to multiply it by the number of undergraduate students, as well as by the normal credit per course, and that gave me an amount of $72,000. $72,000 is a lot of money, and I don't know if you really need that amount per credit. That's my only concern. When you think about it, a regular bus trip, let's say, to Toronto, if you take a mega bus, for example, or something along those lines, is about let's say $20. So I'm not really sure as to how you came to that amount per credit, but I do think it's a good idea. That's the only concern that I have from a physical standpoint. And I also wanted to know if students want to opt out of this, are they able to?
Oh, I'm not sure about how the Concordia referendum works and if students are able to opt out of fee levies. But like in terms of the so I didn't do the budget myself, but basically we're just as an example, we did our first our trip like in March. So usually it was to New York, and usually for like Greyhound, a Greyhound trip to New York one way would cost $90. And we were able to offer students $45 trips to New York for a one-way trip. And we did this without any funding at the time. So we're planning to even lower these costs. So that's why we're asking for 29 cents per credit. Although this might be something that we will discuss after hearing what you said.
All right, thank you.
To ask a quick follow-up, could Eduardo or someone maybe answer that if this became a thing, can students choose to opt out of this fee levy?
Yeah, so part of the rules of being a fee levy is that you have to opt out. You have to provide an opt-out. So yeah, they would be also have to follow that rule.
And just one last thing, I think really what's important here, I'm sorry, I forgot your name, Dimitri, is to bring forward some type of, budget or more information on it. I know this is very preliminary, but I think that would really help us understand the full picture.
Yeah, and that's something we'll definitely have for the fee levy application.
All right, thank you. Shivani, go ahead.
Yeah, I just wanted to very quickly, I found out about the McGill Co-op either in December or January, and I was days away from convincing my friends to take the co-op just because that's, something as an international student. I have not been to New York and I would like to go to New York, and I saw those prices and I was interested. So just on a personal interest level, you know, Dimitri said that the bus was sold out. So interest-wise, I was interested. So that's my piece on that.
Thank you.
All right, thank you. Is there anything further for Dimitri? Harrison, is your hand still up from before?
Sorry, no, it's not.
Oh, okay. Luca, go ahead.
Hi, can you hear me?
Yeah, you're good.
So if this is, I'm not a counselor, so do not be afraid. I'm just curious about this. So if students are paying into the service through a fee levy, do you still have to buy a ticket?
Yes, but the tickets will be like substantially cheaper than what's already given with either like Megabus or Greyhound and other companies.
Thank you.
All right, thank you. So if there is nothing further for Dimitri, then I'd like to thank you very much for taking the time to come to council, and good luck with your petition signatures.
Thank you.
In the interim, my Zoom seems to have developed a really strange problem where I can't click anything. So I might have to restart this meeting because I have to let in the host. Sorry?
Caitlin, do you
Yes?
have any external devices plugged in to your computer, say like a phone charging?
Got nothing. This is the
Okay.
weirdest thing that's ever happened to my Zoom. I can't let anyone in. I can't raise or lower your hands. I can't check the chat. I can't even close the Zoom. So what shall we do? And I can't transfer the host to anyone, which would make this a lot easier.
If it becomes a problem, do you want to just restart the Zoom call and maybe invite
Yeah,
everyone back in?
I was trying to avoid having to do that, but I might have to do a hard restart for the app. So is everyone okay with taking like a 2-minute recess and just re-clicking the link in a second?
Yeah.
Okay, sorry about that, folks. Hopefully this will work. Oh, good. I can't click on end meeting. Great.
We'll just all leave.
Just force quit the app.
Yeah, that's what I have to do. Oh, good. That's not working either.
Oh, maybe it's your computer.
Caitlin, does Task Manager work?
Going really well. Yeah, I'm going to find the task manager.
Task Manager has failed.
No, I can't remember what it's called on the Mac. I rarely use it.
Ooh.
Command Alt Delete.
That might be it. Man, we can just all watch me try to fumble around with this. What the heck is this? That doesn't work either.
You want to just try restarting your computer and
I might have to do that. Okay, folks, we're gonna restart the computer.
If you do that, someone else will be transferred the host usually.
Oh, that's good
And
to know. Okay,
then
so
they can just let you back in and make you host again.
oh, that would be awesome. Okay, so
hot
let
potato.
me do that. Unfortunately, I can't choose who will become host, so one of you will be bestowed this power.
Who gets the power? Let's see it.
See you all in a second.
If I get the power, I'm kicking you all out.
No, it says Zoom can't shut down. What the heck is happening?
Zoom has the power.
Yeah, I tried to shut down my computer. And
Caitlin,
it said,
did you try Option Command Escape?
let me try that.
What kind of Mac language is this?
It's weird. Oh, there we go. Okay, force quit. Yay, force.
Mid-sentence. She's still here though.
I think it takes a little while for the system to realize.
She's with us in spirit.
So,
how's everyone doing?
Yeah. Her Vistage is still there, and her computer is still recording. So this is uncharted territory.
Okay, so apparently I was wrong about it transferring the hosts. Good to
Oh
know.
no, Chris
no,
is
it's Chris.
host. Chris. Alphabetical order.
That's funny. He just became host.
Look at that.
Wow, how does it feel to be powerful? Or is it because your profile picture is Jesus, so he took the wheel?
Okay. I don't even know what to do.
if you want, you can make me host and I can start admitting people back and whatnot.
Chris, are there any people in the waiting room?
Yeah, I let them in.
Okay.
Okay, perfect.
Boy, this is fun.
Yeah. Here's the power. So now we just have to wait for Council Mom to come back.
In the meantime, you can pause the recording by going to the settings and clicking pause recording.
Yeah, he did.
Yeah,
Okay.
I did, yeah.
Yeah, so do you know how to transfer them back to me?
I already did. I think I already did.
Oh, okay, perfect. I don't see the letting people in.
They were let in already.
Oh, okay, that's good. All right. Oh, there we go. Okay, that's all good. Okay, well, thank you so much, Chris, and thank you so much for everyone waiting. Sorry, that was very strange. Is Leia here? Nope, they're not. Let me go see if I can find Leia, who is the next presenter.
And also push her back one turn and let the other speaker speak.
Motion to do that.
To do what? Sorry, I didn't hear that.
Hirsch.
I believe what Arad was suggesting is that we simply move on to we switch the agenda, the order of the agenda, so that the next person can talk while we're waiting for.
Oh, that's fair. If she doesn't, okay. Sure, that's fine. I don't see why we can't do this. So that is Shivani's point in that case. Are you ready to present the police brutality motion and position?
Yes, I am.
Perfect, go ahead.
Okay, I'll present the motion and then I'll just read it. Hold on. All right. So the wording is a little different from the one in the package because I didn't realize how I don't know what I was on for it to be so messy. So just slight changes. So the CSU opposes all forms of police brutality and expresses solidarity with the Black Lives Matter movements across North America. The CSU recognizes systemic racism and white supremacy as monumental viruses within society and condemns the recent killings of Black and Indigenous people at the hands of police officers in Canada and the United States. The CSU recognizes its racially diverse student population and how police violence and racial profiling experiences affects their educational experience and mental health. Thus, we advocate for their safety and security to ensure a safe, enriching university environment. The CSU condemns the current lack of momentum surrounding conversations of systemic racism and police violence in Montreal. The CSU will engage with the Concordia University administration on its security relationship with the SPVM, its lack of accountability to anti-Black policing on campus, and how Concordia can tangibly ensure a safe campus for Black, Indigenous, and students of color. So I'll just read out the points. There are 8 of them. Disregard the 12, but I'll just read it. 12.1. The CSU condemns the police brutality that occurred during the 1969 computer center occupation resulted in the death of Coralie Hutchinson and commits to acknowledging the university's role in the violence. 12.2 and 12.3 were adopted in May 2012. So 12.2, the CSU condemns the police brutality that occurred during the student strike of 2011 to 2012. 12.3, the CSU presses the government of Quebec to open an independent inquiry into the police's violent suppression of dissent throughout the course of the student strike during the student strike of 2011 to 2012. 12.4, the CSU stands in solidarity with the Black Lives Matter movement in its condemnation of rampant anti-Black, anti-Indigenous police violence resulting in the deaths of Breonna Taylor, George Floyd, Anthony Griffin, Regis Krajinski-Paquette, Bonnie Jean-Pierre, Walter Wallace, amongst all victims reported and unreported. 12.5, the CSU commits to pressuring the administration to remove its relationship with the SPVM to remove police presence on campus. 12.6, the CSU condemns the police brutality enacted on protesters during the Montreal Black Lives Matter protests on June 1st and the continuous overbearing police presence for all Black Lives Matter, police brutality, and Indigenous rights related demonstrations and protests. 12.7, the CSU calls on the City of Montreal to implement measures by the SPVM that on the SPVM that could be used to document and reduce discriminatory police stops of Indigenous and racialized persons. 12.8, the CSU stands in favor of defunding and abolishing the SPPM so as to redirect those financial resources to areas such as healthcare, mental health, housing, education, jobs, and restorative justice models that better suit the needs of our communities. And I'll just read the motion. So be it resolved that the following position book additions be adopted by council and sent to referendum for ratification during the CSU by-elections in the fall. Be it further resolved that the budgetary impact is nil. I did invite Amaria Phillips from the Black Students Union to talk a little bit about this. So if
one question, you said by-elections in the fall. Did you mean by-elections or the fall elections?
By-elections.
Oh, sorry, by-elections it is the fall.
Yeah.
Wow. Time passes. All right.
Well, either, yeah. So yeah, I did invite Amaria Phillips from the BSU just because while I was editing it, they posted on their Instagram regarding what happened on Monday in Philadelphia. So I'll give the floor.
Right. Just before, can we have a second for the motion?
I'll second.
Second by Harrison. And Amaria, welcome to the CSU.
Hi, thanks for having me. So I'm just going to read up the post that we that caught Siobhan's attention. So it's about the murder of Walter Wallace Jr. So Walter Wallace Jr., a 27-year-old Black man, was shot and killed in front of his mother and neighbors during a confrontation with the police in West Philadelphia on Monday. The family called for an ambulance, not the police. The situation should have been handled differently. Shots did not need to be fired. Another black man's life did not need to end. Unfortunately, the officers were not equipped with the training or had the proper tools to deal with a person who was experiencing crisis in that moment, which led to another unarmed Black man being murdered at the hands of the police. These officers should be held accountable. Police need to be trained to properly deal with these types of
No, I'm in a council meeting. It's like
immediately.
I literally am not listening.
Just remember to mute your yourself if you're not at.
Yeah, so no, you can come over.
Leia, you're muted.
Yeah, go ahead, Amaria. Sorry about that.
It's so good. Don't worry about it. These officers should be held accountable. Police need to be trained to properly deal with these type of situations immediately to prevent another Black life being lost unnecessarily. So Black Lives Matter, Black mental health matters, Black disabled lives matter, and again, end police brutality worldwide. Justice for Walter Wallace Jr. Say his name. Now, I believe it's important for to be able to take a stance against police brutality because it's letting the students know that you care. It's letting the students know that you care about what is going on. Like we see these things in America. We see these things going on in Africa. Like it's a lot, and a lot of us are tired of it. A lot of us are frustrated, and we want to see changes. And students want to feel like people care. Yes, I said that, but also that there's some changes that are going to happen. Like Shivan said, I don't know if I'm pronouncing your name properly, by the way. We briefly talked today, so I'm still getting to know her. But yeah, we want these changes to happen, and it needs to happen starting in the university and across Montreal in Canada and so on and so forth. But taking a stance really makes a big difference, not only on Black students, but Indigenous students, letting them know that, yes, you know that these things are happening. Yes, you know that police brutality is happening. You know that we are being racially profiled, and sometimes drastic measures are happening when confronted with the police, and it could end up with someone being dead. And so it is important to take a stance against this because it's something that we see too often. It is being normalized it's being normalized, and we don't want it to be normalized. So with that being said, I'll give back the floor to Siobhan.
All right, thank you very much, Amaria. Shivani, did you have anything to say?
Yeah, just a little bit to add. So I sent this to Caitlin in September, and we've had very long agendas, so finally I can present this. And unfortunately, it's you know, it's been relevant for years, but now it's painfully even more relevant because of what happened on Monday. So I'll just read out what City Council member Jamie Gauthier said about what happened. She said, had these officers valued the life of this Black man, had they treated him as a person experiencing mental health issues instead of a criminal, we might be spared our collective outrage at yet another injustice at the hands of the police. So at council, we've spoken a lot about this. The annual campaign is, you know, Black Lives Matter. So naturally we have, and I believe, as Amari has just stated, our Black students have made it clear how much police violence affects their mental health, their sense of safety, feeling abandoned by representative bodies such as, you know, this one. And this has sprung up a bunch of initiatives like BSU, like Black Caucuses, task force. There was that statement that was made earlier in June by staff, students, and professors. And, you know, against all accounts, you know, these kind of outdated mindsets have prevailed. The premier of this province has famously rejected systemic racism. Despite all accounts, there are many manifestations of racism. What happened with Joyce Ajaquan, the 37-year-old Indigenous woman who died in Joliet Hospital. There are many reports of racism at Concordia. You have the Unheard Concordia Instagram page that has now been, you know, it's not there anymore for whatever reason. Ask anybody about Concordia, and I'm sure they have a story of racist behavior from either students or staff or their professors. And as it relates to police brutality and violence in Montreal, if you've attended any of these protests, you know firsthand how like overwhelming the police presence is and how unsafe it feels to be there because of the police. So, you know, there are other things that are being done, and of course more things should be done, more so than a position, but, you know, just to show commitment for these issues, all efforts on council's part counts. So that is my bit. Thank you.
All right, thank you. Matthew, go ahead.
So I just want to make a small amendment to one of the lines where the one where you say the Concordia's relationship with the police, I would like to add, with exception to emergencies. For example, there was a bomb threat last year, and like technically under the exact wording, the bomb squad would not have been able to do research. I just want to say that with this amendment, that in the case of emergency, they're allowed to do something like check for a bomb threat.
Right. Do we have a second for the amendment?
Second.
Second by Hirsch. You kind of already motivated Matthew. Is there any opposition to adding the amendment, or can it be considered friendly?
I don't know much about emergency, so I'm you know, willing to be swayed. But does anyone else have a piece on that?
I just feel like emergency is a little subjective because like what if someone feels like just a Black man walking by is an emergency to stop them or whatever, you know? I feel like it should be maybe emergency and maybe like in a bracket like such as life-threatening, like overwhelmingly life-threatening evidence.
Sure, we can do that within a reasonable understanding of the term, I guess, or
yeah.
I'm just trying to pull up the the motion here just so we all know.
Yeah, sorry about this. I would have actually gotten the exact thing, but I don't have the current version.
Yeah, I'm pulling up what Shivani had just sent me before. That way we can all see what we are voting on. Okay, let me just share my screen. There we go. So where was it exactly, Matthew?
12.5.
Oh, James.
5?
Yeah.
Move its relationship. So it would be with, here, let me just put this in red so we can all see. With the exception of overwhelmingly life-threatening incidents. Was that it, Daniel?
I'm muted, sorry. I think that works.
Bomb threats. Is this amenable to you, Matthew?
Yes, it was literally just an exception, I think, sort of was needed.
All right. Is there any opposition to this amendment to the motion? Okay, so in that case, it is adopted, and I'll go back to the main speakers list. James, go ahead.
Yeah, can I motion to remove 12.8 in its entirety? Yeah,
Okay,
because
do we have a second first?
and removing Regis Korinsky packet from 12.4.
Can
Okay.
you just can you reshare your screen, Caitlin?
Yeah, sorry, I was about to do that. So this is the proposed, I'll put that in a different color, put that in gray, and put that in gray. Is there a second for this amendment?
I'll second it.
Seconded by Hirsch. James, did you want to explain?
Yeah. So for the thing about Regis is that after an independent investigation, it was kind of almost overwhelming that it wasn't her death wasn't a result of police violence. And I mean, I swear, if we're going to take the route that like independent reports can't be trusted, then at that point we're into the realm of conspiracy theories. For 12.8, like it makes the entire thing, number one, inconsistent, because we're calling for example, let's just say we're calling for more accountability in the SPVM, which is a laudable goal. We're asking for accountability in this PVM, and then but also to abolish the SPVM. Those two are like mutually contradictory goals. We either want to like improve the organization because we understand how things work, and that if we remove the SPVM, what we're going to be left with is the SQ, because that's how Quebec law works. Unless we also want to abolish the SQ and like any sort of like enforcement, and then we're left with the RCMP. And then okay, fine, let's just abolish the RCMP as well. And like at that point, we like it's a never-ending like stream of nonsense. And like so we like, I don't think we should be going out there trying to abolish like the people, right, like the police force of the island of Montreal, which is either going to splinter into, I mean, there's a reason why they all united into one organization, because splintering 20 or whatever different organizations on one island is incredibly inefficient. There's a massive reason why that happened, because of the multiple municipalities. Even TMR uses SPVM, and Westmount uses SPVM. Everybody on the island uses SPVM. Even if they have their own kind of like public security type organizations. But anyway, it's beyond the point of it, the fact that it's simply mutually contradictory with the rest of the motion. At least the ones concerning the SPVM. Now, I would like to also, question as to what Concordia is going to be, the Concordia doesn't have the power to tell the SPVM not to come onto its campus, is one of the biggest issues with, I mean, that's the rest of the motion. Neither does this Concordia have the power to, for example, when we had the position about denying CBSA officers access on the campus, you're not allowed to do that. That's illegal, unless you want the university to barricade all its doors and shut down the entirety of the institution. Which.
Point of order, we're well beyond 2
But
minutes.
yeah, no,
For
like it's
motivating, you can have more than 2 minutes.
Oh, that's great. Oh, that's great. But yeah, no, like the one. Okay, so the two main points is it's mutually contradictory with a bunch of the other stuff in the motion, and in the alternative, it's probably a very bad idea to go about trying to abolish the SPVM. If anything, like we're asking them to, like, for example, have more resources to implement measures that can be, used to document and all these other things. So we're asking them to improve the resources, right? Presumably improve training mechanisms and like stuff like that, but also to defund them, which is kind of mutually contradictory goals. Like, and if we're going to be doing the argument, oh, well, defunding doesn't mean defunding, it means X, Y, Z, then you've already, like, you're that meme where it's just like, the massive block of text that nobody listens to, so it's
yeah, just wrap it up.
But yeah, and for 12.4, it's that like the Ontario Independent Report basically came out to say that the police, like, the death of Regis was not like definitively not the result of police violence. So, you know, that's a thing. We don't want to be publishing fake news, so to speak.
All right, thank you. All right, so is there any opposition to these amendments before we move on?
Yes, can I
Okay,
oppose,
so
please?
just, okay, so I will open the floor to discussion on the amendments. As stated by James, sorry, I stopped sharing my screen just so I could have better access to the hands up. Victoria, go ahead.
I just wanted to say that I don't think it's contradictory at all. I don't think that adding 12.8 is problematic, because the reality is that the goal in a perfect world would be the police would be completely gone. Because if we look to the history, and if you guys come to the workshops that we've been creating regarding BLM, one of the biggest things we talk about and that we've looked at is the fact that police officers and the whole system of it itself comes from a place of racism. It's like in and of itself is racist. It's problematic. So with that being said, in a perfect world, we'd get rid of it. Obviously, we can't do that overnight. So what this motion is saying is that we need to start looking and start analyzing and actually acknowledging the fact that we don't necessarily need police officers, but we can and should be looking into alternatives like mental health services, more BIPOC friendly alternatives rather than always calling the police. So I really think that 12.8 is a necessity in this motion, and I think it's something that we should keep, because regardless if it quote unquote contradicts the rest of what we're saying, that is ultimately the end goal, is to have less of a need to call the police for every single little detail when we have alternatives, and there are alternatives open and necessary. So I just wanted to kind of say that.
All right, thank you. Sarah, go ahead.
Hi. So essentially, I just think, you know, we keep it as is, and with what's happening with Regis, you know, even though it may have been dismissed, there are still some things that are very questionable, especially to the Black community, because this happens time and time again where cases get dismissed with police officers. So let me just name that. So instead of just, you know, as we call fake news, it always misinterprets Black people. And then also with that, I'm personally working with the university administration as academic and advocacy coordinator to ensure, you know, we advocate for these things. And one of the subcommittees is to actually speak about security and how Black people feel on campus when it comes to, you know, having an SPVM on St. Catharines, which is right next to Concordia, and how are we going to protect our own students. So we have to ensure that the university is also doing these things to protect their students. So I think we should just keep the motion as is, because every single time it's the same argument about the same thing when it comes to Black people. So I don't know why we can't just pass this smoothly and move on. Thank you.
Thank you. Shivani, go ahead.
Oh, I wasn't expecting. Okay. First of all, James, don't really appreciate the condescension, and if you could please mute yourself so we don't have to hear your very loud sighs, that would be much appreciated. Second of all, again, we've had this conversation time and time again. There's already a second for the amendment, so if we could just split them, like the you know, the couple of amendments, and then just vote on them, that would be great. Yeah.
Okay. Thank you. Harrison, go ahead.
Yeah, I mean, I just want to echo what my colleagues mentioned before. First of all, I think it's important to understand we aren't making legislation. This is not legislation. So this is a position that the student union would be taking. So in regards to your concerns, James, although maybe physically we cannot stop a police officer from coming into our campus, we can condemn those behaviors and we can speak out against that. And I think that that's what that aspect of the position does. In regards to the situation that was brought up, the name that you wanted removed, I think it's important to understand that if we look at cases in the United States, for example, pardon me, I forget his name, but there are consistently incidents, you know, that have these so-called independent investigations and public investigations, and I think that these investigations are also questionable themselves, which is why we have to ask ourselves, you know, are they really are they really impartial? Are they really, did they really come to the right conclusion? Or is there systemic racism even within these sorts of investigations? So just to address that, I think we should pass the motion, the position as full, as was proposed and amended by Matthew. Thank you.
Great, thank you. James, go ahead.
I mean, yeah, I think like what a lot of people, need to, when we're talking about like we see stuff in the States, but this isn't like, for example, like in the States when we see stuff being dismissed, right? It's by, it's because there are no independent investigative bodies. In Ontario, for example, it's a body that's independent of the police organizations that's doing the investigating. It's not an internal investigation, for example, or simply the general prosecutor or like the district attorney or whatever the name of the position is called that decides who gets charged and who doesn't. In Ontario specifically, just like in Quebec and in most places in Canada, there's an independent commission that's established, which, by the way, is one of the goals of a few Black Lives Matter organizations is to establish these independent commissions. And that exists in Canada, in most places, and especially in Ontario where this happened, and they came to this conclusion. And at this point, like if we're going to be arguing for the establishment of independent tribunals and then not like then not accepting the results of these tribunals, then that's negotiations from a position of bad faith. And this is from the CSU's perspective. So if we want to start these types of negotiations, we actually have to like pull through and like, this isn't, like in the United States where it's just the police doing the investigation themselves. Like these are organizations independent from the police departments. Second is that like especially for the abolishing, like it's I'm not comfortable voting for positions, for example, that I wouldn't endorse, for example, actually implementing in real life. It's not about like just oh, there's these wide ideas, and like just the idea that policing itself is only born of racism is like if you just look into the like that, there's a question about whether or not the early police departments in the southern United States draw their origins from certain organizations, but
You're almost
especially
at your 2 minutes.
yeah, so but especially when it comes to Canada, we follow the the P-Light tradition of, for example, the London Constabulary when we establish our police forces in Canada, not any sort of American model.
All right, thank you. That's your 2 minutes. Shivani, go ahead.
I just call the question on the amendments.
Yep. Is there a second for calling the question?
Second.
Second by Harrison. Is there any opposition to calling the question?
We just exhaust the, okay, well, people are putting their hands down, but exhaust the speakers list and then call the question.
Do we want to exhaust the speakers list and then call the question?
Point of
Or just call the
information.
question?
I
Sorry?
just want to make sure this question isn't on my original amendment, but rather on the new amendment.
No, it's on the amendment as proposed by James here. I can pull it back up again. Do we want to just exhaust Hirsch, Sarah, and Isaiah?
Yeah, okay.
Okay. All right, Hirsch, go ahead.
Well, the fact is, when you use a word, it has a meaning. The word in question here is abolish. Abolish means get rid of. So, I mean, now, to take an extreme example, these things don't happen too often, thank God, but a mass shooting, who are you going to call? I mean, social workers, yeah, you need at the end of the day, there must be something that is the police. I mean, we could abolish the SPVM and then come up with a different set of letters and then create a new police force. But at the end of the day, you're always going to end up with armed enforcers of the will of the powers that be. I mean, we can call them different names, but at the end of the day, that will be there because logically that has to be there. So I don't see how, as my colleague James just said, I cannot vote for something which, based on the basic meaning of what it is problematic.
right, thank you. Sarah, go ahead.
I was just, I guess, with everything that has been said, you know, in terms of obviously for emergencies and, you know, with other things, police can assess the situation if it's a school shooting. So, I mean, that's completely different than supporting Black people who are afraid of the police every day for a certain reason on campus. So I think that's a different thing. I think we should just, you know, be able to vote on this. And again, I just think, like, you know, Shivani created this, and I think it's a good initiative. And you know, other countries are in support of like what we're doing. Schools are even supporting this, but I don't understand why we can't. So I think, you know, time and time again, when some people bring in people of color, bring in motions like this, they tend to always end up in such big discussions. I think we should just be able to vote on something that's going to help the population to make things better. So yeah.
All right, thank you. Isaiah, go ahead, and then we'll move to a vote.
We'll take a vote, especially in the sense that keep in mind that these are for systems that we already know are flawed, and we're asking students if they feel comfortable, like if they support this, and if this is like, it's, as Sarah said, it's to support the communities that are really in need of it now, where it's like we need to be able to, in normal cases, rest assured that like students are protected from these issues that they face. Yeah, so that's it.
All right, thank you. Okay, so at this point, we've exhausted the speakers list, so we'll move to a vote. So I have the two amendments on screen share right now. So it's the removal of the name Regis Korchinski Paquette from 12.4 and the complete removal of 12.8. So if you're voting yes, that means you're in favor of removing them. If you're voting no, it means you want to keep them. And if you're abstaining, it means you are abstaining.
Point of information.
Yes.
Correct me if I'm wrong, didn't Shivani move to split the amendments into two to vote separately, or?
Oh, I thought you were just, was that an official motion or were you just?
No, I was just saying it. It's fine. We can just vote on this. Yeah.
All right, thank you. Okay, so I'll go through the list. Jared, how do you vote?
Okay, I wasn't here for the entirety of the conversation, so I don't know exactly which are, can you just show me exactly what's being taken out?
Yeah, oh, sorry, it's the things that I guess the gray doesn't show up that well, but it's to remove the name right here and 12.8 to remove these two things. So I'd kind of grayed them out, but didn't show up super well.
Okay. For right now, I'm going to abstain, but maybe you could come back to me if I can just fully read everything. But for the time being, consider it an abstain.
All right, Diana, don't think is here. Harrison, how do you vote?
Just to clarify, we are voting on these amendments, correct?
We're voting to remove them. So if you're voting yes, it means you want them gone. If you're voting no, it means you want them to stay.
Sorry, we're voting to remove the highlighted items, correct?
Yeah.
Remove
yes. Gray, not the red.
Okay, I vote to keep, so that would be no.
All right, thank you. Chelsea, how do you vote?
I vote no.
No. Howard, how do you vote? I don't know if Howard's here. No. Jeremiah, how do you vote?
Can you come back to me on this one?
Okay. Lauren, how do you vote?
No.
No. Zachary is not here. Aryeh, how do you vote? Aryeh? Go back to you. Sarah, how do you vote? Oh, sorry, how?
No, I was just saying, where are you? Like, the joke.
Sarah, how do you vote?
No.
No. Margot is not here. Shivani, how do you vote?
No.
No. Yeah. Yasmin's not here. Marlena?
No.
No. Chris?
No.
No. Matthew?
No.
No. Anais?
No.
No. James? James? Come back to you. Desiree's not here. Hirsch, how do you vote?
Yes.
Yes. So Jeremiah, you said come back to you?
I'll abstain.
Abstain. Aryeh, are you here?
I reread it. I would like to vote no. That's
Okay.
Jared
And,
speaking.
oh,
Jared.
that's Jared. Oh, thank you. Yeah, so I will change yours to no. Arye or James, are you here?
Yes.
How do you vote?
Yes.
Yes, sorry. And Arye, one last call. Okay, if not, I'll call the vote. So the vote is 2 yes, 10 no, and 1 abstention. So the amendment fails, and we're back on the main motion. At this point, we've reached our 20 minutes, so I don't know how long we want to discuss the motion.
Can I call the question?
Shivani?
I was going to call the question. Matthew beat me to it.
So if there's no more discussion, is there a second for calling the question?
Second.
You can't second your own motion.
Second.
Who's the second? Second by Harrison. Is there any opposition to calling the question? Okay, so in that case, let me just change these back to text. Ooh, that's not working. Sorry, I'm just changing the colors. There we go. Okay, so we are voting on the motion as amended. The amendment there is in red, and we've already accepted that. So if you're voting yes, it means you're voting in favor of the motion as a whole. If you're voting no, it means you're voting against it. And if you are abstaining, you are abstaining. Jared, how do you vote?
Yes.
Yes. Diana? It's not here. Harrison, how do you vote?
Yes.
Yes. Chelsea?
Yes.
Yes. Jeremiah?
I'll vote no.
No. Lauren?
Yes.
Yes. Arye? Not here. Sarah?
Absolutely yes.
Yes. Shivani?
Yes.
Yes. Marlena?
Yes.
Yes. Chris?
Yes.
Yes. Matthew?
Yes.
Yes. Anais?
Yes.
Yes. James?
Abstain.
James? Oh, abstain. Desiree is not here. Hirsch?
Abstain.
Abstain. Arye, are you here? No. Is there anyone else I missed?
Caitlin,
Yes.
I'll change to abstain.
Okay, you were a no, changing to abstain. All right, so in that case, I'll call the vote. So it is 10 yes, 0 no, and 3 abstentions. So the motion carries, and this will be going to referendum in the fall by elections. I forgot that we were in the fall. Is there anything further on this? Okay, so if not, Leah, you are here to talk about the mind and wellness referendum question. The floor is yours.
If someone could guide me, because I've never done this before, do I just ask the question I sent?
Sorry, what was the question? I didn't quite hear.
I'm not sure if someone can guide me. Do I just say the question I sent, basically? Is that all I do?
Oh, I thought you had a presentation, sorry. Yeah, I mean, you can...
I didn't need to present. I mean, I can give a bit of a background on what I'm doing. I'm sorry.
And in order to make a motion, a counselor or executive has to like read the question.
Okay.
Yeah, so the floor is yours. Go ahead.
Wait, point of information?
Yes.
Isn't this just a presentation to collect signatures?
Oh, is it? Leah, is this?
It's just to collect signatures.
Oh, okay then. All right. So yeah, go ahead. You can present however you wish.
Okay, so I guess just to give a bit of a background, I think a few people know me. So my name is Leah. I'm one of the people who have been running the Mindful Project for the past 3 years. And basically what we aim to do is that we aim to educate people properly about mindfulness, its benefits, and how to practice it. But also more importantly, is that we establish a professional, secular mindfulness training program that's affordable to all undergraduate students. And we have been getting our funding mostly from the CSU in the past 2 years. But this year, because of COVID and such, our funding got cut, and it was recommended to us that we apply as a fee levy. And so that's what we're aiming to do so that we can keep running and bring our services to students. I think that's honestly all I have to say for now because it's not really a presentation. Someone else has to read the question, or do I have to?
No, sorry. That was just if it was a motion. Sorry. But yeah, so you just come here to present the question. Like you can read it, and then if council has any questions or comments, they can speak, and then that's all.
Okay, so just sorry, let me find the question. So sorry, just as a note, we actually rechanged the name. It was a minor detail. So do you agree to the creation of a new fee levy for 0.06 cents per credit for the Mindful Project effective summer 2021?
All right, thank you. Daniel, go ahead.
Hi, Leah. I just want to, can you just repeat, which club is this going to be replacing again?
So funny story, the Mindful Project actually has never been a registered club. So how we got this far, I can't explain necessarily. I just really fought this project to get money, but we never were registered as a club. We were just funded by the CSU for a few years. So now obviously we have to register as not a CSU club, but like with the council of students or something like that. But then we were transitioned as a fee levy.
Where did you get the funding from, like from CSU?
So the first year was with Sophie as the head exec, and it was like a small funding that was kind of like as an attempt. So basically we said, we tried this program. It was under Concordia Undergrad Psychology Association for the first year. So it ran on like the smallest amount of money ever just to test the program. And after a year, we said, we really think we have something that works here. So I brought it to Sophie and then pitched to council, and we got about $5,000 as really like a test. So it was kind of like, okay, we'll give you this money so you can actually more fully run. And then if it's effective, we were kind of planning of being a CSU service. So I'm not sure administratively what that meant because that wasn't really my part, but I was thinking something like there's a daycare and there's different centers that it would be added as such. And then the next year was Chris's year. Sophie's year didn't properly communicate about our project to Chris's year. So we missed the budget, the yearly budget. So basically we asked for funding after the budget was finished. So then in October, we re-pitched to council and asked for the funding we were looking for to run like actually effectively. And after many months of fighting, we got, I'm not sure if someone else like Isaiah can remind, I think a part of the funding came from the operations budget, another part, I don't know if Isaiah could answer this part for
Yeah,
me.
so what's it called? Ironically, Arad was on FinCom, if I'm not mistaken, too here, but he can correct me if I was wrong. It was the split where we got about, I think, 7K or whatever from the endowment fund back before there was a policy, and then around 13K out of operations, where FinCom cranked the numbers and balance, like made it balance.
And I can confirm that most of the money was from the operating, and the previous year, Sophie's year, was all from operating.
All right, thank you.
So, but sorry, I had one more follow-up, Caitlin.
Yeah, go ahead.
So is this to become a fee levy or to become a service of the CSU?
So now it's supposed to, we're aiming to become a fee levy. So we've been working on our application for months.
Okay, sounds good. Thank you.
All right, thank you. Does anyone else have any other comments or questions? Okay, if not, Leah, did you have anything to add?
Nope, thank you.
All right, perfect. So good luck on your petition and signature collecting, and thank you very much for coming to council. And if there's nothing else on point B, we can move on to Arad, your presentation.
Thank you.
Do you need the screen share?
Yes, I do actually.
All right, go ahead. It should work.
Okay, give me a second. Okay. All right, let's see how this works. So you guys are just seeing, because I have two monitors, I'm not sure what you guys are seeing right now. You're just seeing my title page, right?
And it says notes and next.
We're seeing the present one. You have to use the other one.
Okay. I know what I gotta do. All right, how about now?
Yeah, you're good. Just the slide.
So, hi, I'm Murad. I'm a Concordian, as you know. I'm also an Armenian, as many do know, and those who already know me in this room know that I'm a previous JMASP counselor, so you can say I'm a CSUian, if that's a word. I'll cut to the chase because I know how long these meetings are. There's a war going on right now in Artsakh, and I'm here to say that the CSU should speak up about it. So I'll start with a very brief history lesson, but this can go on for 15 minutes. Artsakh is a native Armenian land for those who don't already know. So Armenians have occupied the land for at least 2,500 years. That's what's confirmed, but some believe it to be longer. There's monuments and Armenian churches spread out throughout all of Artsakh that date all the way back to the 3rd century BC. It's our ethnic lands. Of course, there's going to be our ethnic monuments and churches. And we've constantly controlled the area, even when from 1921 to 1999, we were colonized by the Azerbaijani people. Even during that time, it was constantly controlled by Armenians living in the area. So Armenians asked themselves, great, can we control our own lands, right? We've always lived in this place and we're the majority people in this place. Can we control our own lands? Nope. Okay, they were actually not allowed to control their own lands and it was forbidden. And we'll see why. The whole conflict, which I'll give you in a second what exactly the conflict is, but the whole conflict is rooted in this whole nope situation, this whole loss of the right to self-determination. You see, what happened when the USSR was created is that it occupied all of the Caucasus. So that means Armenia, Nagorno-Karabakh, which is Artsakh in Armenian, and Azerbaijan. So all of it fell under the USSR. And in the 1920s, Stalin decided to gift that piece of land to be under the control of Azerbaijan for political gain. So again, you know, our right to self-determination depends on what another country determines that we're allowed to do or not do. But in the 1990s, when the USSR did finally collapse, Artsakh went ahead and did a referendum, and 99% of the referendum voters said, yes, we do want the right to self-determine and we do want to become an independent nation. So again, can we control our own lands now? Nope. Again, Russia did not want this to happen for their own political gains. Azerbaijan, of course, did not want this to happen for their personal and economic gains. So we were not allowed to self-determine. And that's where the conflict started, okay? There's a war going on today, and it's all rooted in what happened 30 years ago. On September 27th, Azerbaijan started an all-out war, okay? There has been daily civilian bombings. That means members of my family and members of my friend's family have been bombed daily. There have been jihadi mercenaries from Syria that are hired by Azerbaijan in order to fight us. And they've been directly supported by Turkey throughout this whole process. And a lot of people will say, well, it's just a war with two different sides. We'll let them hash it out. But this is not a war. This is premeditated. Right before this even started, Azerbaijan was doing joint military drills with Turkey. They were ramping that up multiple times. There were multiple drones spotted within our borders right before this war started. And surprise, surprise, Turkey's sales, military sales to Azerbaijan went up tenfold in the 3 months before the war started. Now, that shouldn't be any surprise because, well, it was pre-planned. But of course, Azerbaijan knows this is the age of information. So there's a lot of disinformation out there. They'll say things that are proven to be false. They'll say there's no jihadists here, there's no Turkish support, there are no Turkish people on our lands, even though Emmanuel Macron, Donald Trump, Vladimir Putin, all these great big country leaders have come out and said that their intelligence states Azerbaijan started the war and that all of these facts are true. And you might say, okay, well, let's resort to diplomacy. Let's resort to ceasefires, but they're just not working. So 2 weeks into the war, Russia brokered a ceasefire between the two countries. That did not work. It was violated within the hour. A few days after that, France brokered a ceasefire. That did not work. It was broken within 5 minutes. The USA brokered a ceasefire just a few days ago. And again, within 10 minutes, the ceasefire was broken. So these are, by the way, the co-chairs of OC Minsk. And those who don't know what that is, which is fine, OC Minsk is the group by the UN that's dedicated to finding a peaceful resolution to the Artsakh war. All of them failed. Diplomacy is not working. Ceasefires are not working. So enough about history and enough about what's going on. More about, well, finding solutions. And do you remember why I said this all started? Right? Do you remember how Artsakh wasn't allowed to self-determine? And because they were put under Azerbaijan's control, this whole issue began from there. What if we undid that? Canada already condemns Azerbaijan, and Canada already calls for peace. And that's great, actually. But we still need Canada to recognize Artsakh as an independent state. That's the only long-term solution. That's the only way you undo the root cause of why these two countries are fighting and why civilians are dying by the dozens, by the hundreds, and now by the thousands. But what about the CSU, right? This is a very touchy topic, and you're thinking, well, I don't want the CSU to get too involved here. I want you to please just stop for a second. Like actually stop. Just stop any thoughts that you have about it and close your eyes for just 1 second. Try to put yourself in the shoes of a Concordian Armenian and think of any relative you have, preferably someone who lives just a bit further away from you and you might not see very often. Think of a relative you really love. Maybe that relative is your uncle. Maybe it's your grandmother. Maybe that relative is a good friend. Now, what if I told you that relative could die right now? Wouldn't you do everything you can to save them? Everything. And if you do admit to yourself that, yes, you'd probably do everything you can to save them, can you really focus on studying? I know I went from being a grade A student to failing my quizzes in the span of a month. Can you really focus on socializing? I don't remember the last conversation I had beyond the CSU today that wasn't about Artsakh. When did you last smile? When did you last laugh? I know that, apart from fake smiles, it's really limited because I know my people are dying. So you can open your eyes now if you had closed them. This is a tough issue, and I know for the CSU it's tough, but Concordians are actually suffering from this. We can't study, we can't do anything. But the CSU has more power and influence than you think. Say the CSU were to go out and make a social media post informing other other Concordians about what's going on and making recommendations to solve this problem. Well, first of all, that would directly impact the government right now, which would be the liberal government right now. Because we need as many people to reach out to the government and tell them, what's going on and tell them that we need a permanent resolution. But it would most importantly reach out to a bunch of Concordians, many of whom might turn out to support us in the process and to ask again the Canadian government to act. I've prepared a motion, I guess. I've prepared a motion, and I think it's acceptable, at least as the bare minimum of what CSU should do. So please do what you can. Please help us recognize Artsakh. Please make a post and make a statement in that way. Thank you.
Great, thank you very much, Arad. Is there any discussion? I know that there's a motion, but it needs to be supported by councillor or executive.
So can somebody bring up the motion?
Let me put it onto the screen share.
I sent it into the councillor chat as well. So.
Yeah, do you want to read it, Victoria? There's no one on the speakers list, so it can be your motion if you want to support it.
I really didn't want to read it, but I can post it and send it to you guys. So you guys can read it. No, it's okay. I'm dyslexic, so I don't particularly like reading in front of everyone.
I can read it as long as you put it. Well, I can put it up too, I guess.
Oh, here, I have the screen share. Don't worry. All right. So, if anyone wants to sponsor the motion, the floor is open.
I'll sponsor it.
Yeah, go ahead. You just have to read it.
All right. Whereas the war in Artsakh.
You can misspell it, it's okay.
Okay, I'm so sorry. Is causing death of civilians, whereas this war stems from the right to self-determination, which was denied to Armenians in Artsakh. Whereas no other diplomatic solution is working, whereas Concordian Armenians are being severely affected by the war, often losing sleep and struggling with classwork, be it resolved that the CSU make an informative social media post communicating a brief summary of the Artsakh war's effect on civilians and root causes, echoing existing condemnations from the Canadian government, but not straying beyond it, recommending the Canadian government to consider recognizing Artsakh as an independent state as a valid, nonviolent, long-term solution to the conflict, considering the lack of progress with other nonviolent solutions. Be it further resolved that the executive team be mandated with the preparation of the statement in consultation with, but not dictated by, members of the Concordian Armenian community. Be it further resolved that the budgetary impact of this motion is null.
All right, thank you. Do we have a second for the motion?
Second.
Second, was that Jeremiah?
Yep.
Thank you. Daniel, did you want to motivate? I know you just supported it, but I don't know if you have anything to say about it.
I mean, I can't even pronounce the name, so I'm not going to butcher the motivation of it either. I think this is
Sorry,
great.
just for pronunciation, if you want to keep it easy, Artsakh is fine.
Artsakh? Okay. All right, thank you.
Shai, go ahead. Who is our judicial board chair?
Okay, hi guys. I usually don't come to these meetings, but hi, how are you? So I just wanted to make a little statement. The judicial board actually was given a reference question a couple of months ago that has to do with, a similar geopolitical situation. And we basically came to the conclusion that because of the safer spaces policy in CSU, it's a little bit difficult to come out with these types of statements and kind of create a safe space for all students. I, of course, sympathize with the situation. I'm so sorry that your family has to go through this. And I can't imagine what it is like. I just want to make sure, though, that we're on, the correct path in terms of CSU regulations, bylaws, etc. Because in the end of the day, this is a student union. There are students from many different places, and making sure that it's a safe space for everyone, I think, is an extremely important thing.
Answer to that point?
Yeah, go ahead.
Okay. Yeah, so I was actually made aware of that just today, so a bit last minute, but I'm completely open to, working with the executive team to make that post inclusive. What I don't want is people to feel like Azerbaijani people, are in the wrong in one sense or another. And I think that's something that could be echoed in the post. I also wanted to put in the statement that we shouldn't go beyond what the government is saying just because of those issues that you mentioned, right? if you start making bold statements, like you mentioned, there could be an issue with the safer spaces, but that sort of tone can be managed with how we word the post.
All right, thank you. James, go ahead.
Yeah, so right, so hey Arad, welcome back to council. I think I think a lot of people here, like I being Russian myself, I'm kind of very in tune with East European post-Soviet politics, especially what's going on in Artsakh. Artsakh. But and personally, I'd love to, be one of the first people to come out there and say that, what's happening is wrong and that the people of Artsakh should be able to form their own country and have it recognized by other international states without, for example, a lot of this geopolitical pressure. The one issue is, for example, the judicial board reference question as to like taking firm stances on kind of geopolitical things, but I think like we could work on it, for example, and make sure that it's like, because there are very verifiable things, for example, like Azerbaijan using cluster munitions, like, obvious violation of international law, stuff like that, that I think the CSU can make a statement on that without being necessarily too controversial. If we can make sure that like it's based on the actions of the government and say like X government of this country is doing bad thing, we don't like it. And like, for example, I don't think there's much of an issue even with the statement basically making an informational thing about like the war and what happened, so long as it's like, I guess we can make an amendment there that like you work with the JB to make sure that the statement conforms to all the regulations. If the next person can make that amendment. Oops.
All right, thank you. Jeremiah, go ahead. Oh, sorry, you're at your 2 minutes, James. Jeremiah, go ahead.
The amendment that, well, James asked the next person to make that amendment. Okay, not exactly sure how to phrase it, but I guess I can make that amendment to the motion.
The amendment to add be resolved that the statement also be like done in consultation with JB to make sure that it doesn't violate the safer spaces policy.
Okay, that.
Our JB representative here.
Oh yeah, exactly.
Talk about whether they have the ability to, because I know JB gets together for specific issues.
I can clarify that. Basically, a counselor or executive or myself unofficially can ask the judicial board for what's called a reference decision. So it's basically just asking, is this okay within our policies? And then they respond with a yes or no. So I believe it would be something in that capacity.
Because like one of the reasons that the whole geopolitics thing was put in is because there are certain, like the CSU, because it's a very diverse campus, like there's issues, quote unquote, taking sides in international conflicts, because like it could potentially like cause anger between, for example, and cause ethnic tensions on campus, which is something that we have to kind of contend with. But hopefully, like, if we stick to like the most obvious and verifiable actions, for example, like the cluster munitions and the invasions and the breaches of the ceasefire, I think like we can probably stay within bounds. But like we'll do it together with JB so that like it's all nice and Gucci and
All right, thank you. Is there a second for the amendment? I have it on screen share right now.
Oh, then I second it. If Jeremiah moves it, I second it.
Okay. Is there any opposition to the amendment, or can it be considered friendly? Opposition going once, twice. All right, so in that case, it is adopted, and I'll keep going with the speakers list.
I didn't finish.
Oh, sorry. Yeah, sure, Jeremiah. It was technically your speaker's turn. Go ahead.
Yeah, I just wanted to, like, Arad, I can't relate to how you feel as someone might have relatives, who has relatives that are going through the situation. Can't relate to that. That being said, I am especially in support of this bill, and in the sense that I do relate to the idea of Artsakh, wanting to govern itself and wanting to like have its independence. Like I'm from a group of people where we kind of want the same thing. with our situation, although we're not in a war situation, so it's different. But in that sense, like it's related to the situation. So I am totally in support of this. And, you know, even if I couldn't relate, I would be in support anyway.
All right, thank you. Harrison, go ahead.
Yeah, I just wanted to say a few things to this. First of all, Arad, I can't imagine, you know, right now what you and your family are going through. In terms of like many people will know, I always have said this, we shouldn't get involved in geopolitical politics. We shouldn't get involved in geopolitical politics. But what I'm going to say now kind of goes against that. I think that what's being presented, and if we do it in a way like Arad was suggesting, that is inclusive to all community groups on campus, which I trust that Arad, the executive, with the support of GB, to make sure that it doesn't go against our safer spaces policy. I think it could be effective. And I think that also maybe if we mention, you know, that not only do we stand with, I'm sorry, I can't pronounce it properly, but not only do we stand with that region, but we stand with, you know, war-torn regions throughout, you know, the world. So, yeah, just, I think it has the potential to not be divisive and to be an all-encompassing statement. So I support it.
All right, thank you. Shai, go ahead.
Yeah, that's kind of the most important thing for me. I'm open to working with you on making, you know, a statement on Facebook or whatever it is that you guys were expecting to put out, as long as it's not divisive and it doesn't create a threatening or harmful environment for other students. Because as we know through the past reference decision that we made recently, it's that a lot of these times war, you know, things that have anything to do with war, like things that have to do with lives that are at stake, people are very emotional about them, and with, you know, rightfully so. The good thing now is that no one's on campus, so threats, dangers, things like that are not really an issue at the moment. But a lot of the times when we are on campus and we make decisions like this or status updates about these things, that kind of creates a threatening environment for both positions. So as long as we could avoid that, I'm more than willing to work with you on doing that. Then I'm all on board.
All right, thank you. Hirsch, go ahead.
So I guess this is going to sound a bit like a broken record because I'm saying the same thing that everyone up until now has said, which is obviously what's going on in Artsakh is terrible, but at the same time, I'm a little against the idea of the CSU inserting itself into a political situation that is, you know, pits certain groups within our campus against others. After all, we do represent some Azeri students, but I guess as long as we're keeping it within the bounds specified by the motion, then, you know, we're not going any farther than the government has already gone, then I guess that is fine. Or I guess I won't directly oppose.
All right, thank you. So if there is, oh yeah, Shivani, go ahead.
I'd honestly just like to thank Arad for like the legwork you've put into this to carefully construct it so it, you know, is allowed. And I think that's a testament to how dire and how needed this, you know, CSU action is. So I'd just like to thank you a lot for that, and also commend you, now that I'm speaking, for like all the great efforts you've done into pooling in resources and yeah, just educating everyone on social media who might not have been aware of the conflict. So thank you for both of those things.
All right, thank you. Okay, so if there's nothing further, then we can move to a vote. So first of all, is there any, oh, let me just put up the motion so we all know what we're voting on. This one here. So first of all, is there any opposition to this motion? Opposition going once, twice. Okay, so if there is nothing, then the motion carries unanimously. Was there anything else you wanted to say on this topic, Rob?
Yeah, I just wanted to thank everyone. I know it's a touchy topic, and I know usually we don't like talking about touchy topics and going into difficult zones, but thank you for trusting me and being flexible and working as much magic as I can to make this an inclusive statement. And thank you for being allies in the process.
Well,
Thank you so much for coming to council and staying here until 8 to 8:15.
And I'm gonna go for supper after this. So
Not too late to come in the by-elections.
it is. I'm not an undergraduate anymore.
Oh, well, thank you for coming anyways.
All right, well, bye, Arad.
Thanks, Arad.
Thanks so much for coming.
Bye. Thanks.
Bye,
Thanks for
Rad.
showing back up. See you, man.
All right, so at this point, we are done the presentations and guest speakers. I'm going to suggest that we move up right after the appointments, the JB Code of Procedures, just because I didn't realize that the JB was going to be here. So Shai has taken time out of her day to come to the council meeting. Is there any opposition to moving the JB Code of Procedures up to right after appointments?
Can we move it to right after now?
That's fair too.
I second that.
Okay. So yeah, I know usually we have to break Robert's rules, but we're on Zoom, so we'll let that one slide a little bit.
I still need to present orientation, but
Oh, you're right. I'm so sorry. You do present
I don't mind having Shai present for me.
Yeah. Sorry. Yeah. Would it be okay if we move it up just because, like I said, external speakers, and then we can hear your lovely presentation?
Yeah. It was just so that it didn't we didn't just skip over it afterwards.
Yeah. Sorry, that was my bad. Okay, so if there's no opposition to doing the JB Code of Procedures, Sarah, this one is yours.
Hi, everyone. Hey, Shai, thank you for coming. Oh, sorry, my bad. I accidentally put myself on mute. I wanted to put my camera on. Okay, so essentially, these changes were just made in collaboration with the digital board for what their needs were. There's just one minor thing that I made a boo-boo on. So essentially, for the highlight that I made for paragraph number 14, fortunately, it's in the violations of the bylaws. So I need to just change the wording for it to conform to the actual bylaw, which is 8.1.2, or is it 0.1? I just can't, 0.1, thank you. Just to make sure, because in those bylaws, it says that, the Council of Representatives may, by a 2/3 majority vote, fill a vacancy on the judicial board. Members of the judicial board shall be appointed for as long as they are members, essentially. So I just need to make sure that that conforms with it. So I will be changing that. So please, what we'll be voting on will just be separate. So essentially, let me just, do I have to, yeah. Well, I hope everybody read the document because it is important. So essentially, it would be changes to paragraph 40, paragraph 41, and then scroll down.
Which is fine, okay, because you're going to use that to build up your.
Oh, I think someone. Oh, yeah, go ahead, Sarah. Sorry, someone wasn't on mute.
And then paragraph 85, and then paragraph 87. Like I said, this was done in consultation with the judicial board. So I would, unless Shai, do you have anything to add? Cool. So I would like to motion to approve the judicial board code of procedures to be.
Seconded.
All right, seconded by James.
I'm sorry, which was the thing that needed to be changed last minute?
Yeah, I think you muted, or somehow we lost you for a couple seconds.
Lost me? Okay, hang on. It was paragraph 14. I was just saying it was a boo-boo on my part because it's in violation of the bylaws. So I just need to change it to conform to what the bylaws are right now. And as I read, it was just, you can read it yourselves. It's in section 8.1.1.
Yeah, I can just bring it up if you want.
Yeah,
I've got it right here, no worries. So it's just this one here that wouldn't be approved today.
Yeah.
Okay, seconded by James. Is there any opposition to approving the Judicial Code of Procedures minus Article 14?
I just had a question.
Yeah, go ahead.
Sarah, can't we just amend it right now so you don't have to come back again?
Yeah, can we just do that?
Because like it's already in the bylaws, right? So it has to be conformed to the bylaws.
Yeah, it's not so much that it would be amended, it's just that it wouldn't be, like, it would be as it was before.
Oh, okay, so just be removed. Okay.
Yeah.
Okay.
All right, is there any opposition to approving the Judicial Board Code of Procedures as amended? Okay, so if there is no opposition, then that carries unanimously. Was there anything else you had to say, Sarah?
No, thank you.
All right, thank you. And thank you, Shai, for coming to the meeting and staying until 8:20.
Thank you guys so much. All right.
Take care.
Bye, don't be shy. Just kidding.
All right. So at this point, we are on 5E. And Eduardo, this one is your presentation.
Alrighty, I'm just gonna share my screen.
Go ahead.
I'm going to do something pretty awful. I actually did not have time to make a PowerPoint, so I will just show you. I'll share a document, which is awful, but it will be done. So in this point, I'm basically supposed to talk about orientation. First thing, does everyone see my screen? Yes? Yep. Yeah. So this is the lovely graphic we had made up for orientation this year, which is called The Welcoming. And I am just going to speak about it all. So as we know, this year was a little different than ever before in orientation. It was a COVID orientation, which meant that everything had to be online. We didn't know how it was going to look this year because of how different everything was. There was no preparation for this. There was no guides. It was just basically myself, some of the other student lives, VP social and VP events across campus, all getting together in a room every Thursday, I believe it was. And we would talk about it with Dean of Students to see what was going on and hope to make it the best we could. So I'm going to skip to the important part of this, which is the budget. Now, the first thing I want to note is that this year, as opposed from last year, we dropped our budget from $110,000 to $70,000. When I was talking with the finance coordinator at the beginning of the year, this was because at the time, which was obviously May, June, we didn't know what we wanted to do regarding COVID, how much our revenues were going to be in. So to be safe, we cut $40,000 off the regular orientation budget. Historically, $70,000 is the smallest orientation I've seen in recent memory. Going back all the years that we have documents for, I've never seen it below 100 as a budget. So this was quite small. Also, another thing is that we cut the orientation salaries from $30,000 to $10,000. Normally, orientation hires I hired 3 employees to work alongside me while doing this. This year I didn't, to be mindful of money, so I shouldered the majority of the work myself. In the end, I kept 10,000 just in case I would need help during the actual week of orientation, but I ended up spending $0 out of that. So we actually have a surplus of not $1 being spent, so all $10,000 from the orientation budget side, orientation salary side. In terms of orientation budget now, there was one thing, and throughout this year, was that we kept on fluctuating with the actual amounts because council was not sure of what budget to approve at the beginning of the year. This caused quite a bit of headaches because of the fact that 1 week I had it at 70, then it was dropped down to 28,000, then we moved it up to 56,000, and finally it went back to 70. By the time it went back to 70 and it was confirmed, it was early August. This obviously is problematic because it's very hard to plan events and promise money to people who don't, if you're not sure if you have that money or not. The range between 70,000 and 28,000 is very large. So I basically did not start planning events until very late, and I rejected quite a few event ideas which I thought were very good because of the fact that money wasn't secured until the very end. At which point it was almost a moot point to actually use that money because of the fact that most of my events already had to be planned before then. So this was the budget for the year, which I'll be showing everyone over here. As you can see, we have basically all the events. We have Stinger's Yoga, Stinger's Workouts, Concordia, Clubs Fair, Concordia's Got Talent, V Fairs, all the way down. I'll let everyone read it. As you can see, there's many things here. At the beginning of the year, one of the things I wanted to mention was that I realized quite early on that the only way for orientation to be successful this year was to collaborate with other groups. With students basically spending their whole days on the computers, it would be very hard to convince people to spend extra time on a computer after they already went through a full day of computers to attend our events. Multiply this by all the different faculties, multiply this by all the different froches that are going on, multiply this by all the groups on campus, multiply this by the university, and you realize that there's a lot of demand and it's overwhelming how many things are coming at you. So I realized that to make a truly successful orientation, I would need to collaborate with groups, pool our resources together, and hold something that goes above and beyond what would be expected from a group, since now we're working together on something, so it would put us above what other groups were able to do, and at the same time it would make it double our reach, double our basically everything. As you'll see throughout here, sustainable Concordia, this budget line, I'll just go through the budget lines really quick. The stingers for both their events that we planned together with Concordia Recreations just said that they would not charge us for them. They were happy to provide the facilitators for it. For Sustainable Concordia, initially we were going to have an event which we were going to give $500 for them to use. In the end, we ended up changing up our agreement. So we still had an event with Sustainable Concordia, but it costed us nothing. Clubs Fair, I budgeted $16,000 for Clubs Fair. The reason for that is because I promised that every club that makes a video could reimburse up to $100 of the video from the CSU. And the point was that we were going to make every club do a video, and every day throughout the month of October and stretching into November, we're going to do like a club of the day type of thing. Instead of mashing all the videos into one, we do every day one club. On our social medias, people could watch the videos, they could engage with the club, they could ask questions to the club after that. So it was our way of adapting Clubs Fair. And to have them all do videos, we gave everyone a $100 budget. Surprisingly, a lot of the clubs decided not to take the money, which is very odd. A lot of them, I guess, already had stock footage, so they just put the videos together. In the end, we ended up spending $182.64 on the clubs who submitted, which were 2 clubs. So honestly, good on us for doing that. I guess good on the clubs for being mindful of the situation and working around that. In terms of Clubs Fair, anything else? Not really much to mention for it. Some of the videos, all the videos are on our YouTube. Some are like really, really cool. Some are funny. They're very varied in how they approached making their videos. But I'm happy that it continued on because normally this is one of the funner events. The next thing I want to say is Concordia's Got Talent. Obviously, for those of you who aren't aware, Concordia's Got Talent was a massive talent show hosted by all 4 faculties. It was the first time we all got together to do something, everyone together. It's kind of crazy to think about it, but it's very rare that all the faculty associations and the CSU agree on something. We've actually never agreed on an event before. There's actually in the office, there's this poster in the campaigns department where it's the last time we basically stalled tuition hikes for a year. And on that poster, there's one faculty association missing. And that was the closest we got to all the faculty associations agreeing on one thing before. So this was actually the first time we've all agreed on one thing. Basically, the winners of the contest were all given $2,000 off their tuition. That's crucial that it has to be off their tuition. It can't be just $2,000 like that. And then I left a little bit extra because since it's a contest, we might, and I say might, have to pay the government $1,000 of fees for hosting it. The reason I say might is because we might be in a slight loophole where we might get away not paying it, but I left the extra money anyways for it. As of right now, we are at just under $10,000 spent. The reason it's just under is because some of the winners didn't pay $2,000 for tuition. They paid less than $2,000. So they we only reimburse them what they paid. We're currently processed 4 of the 5 winners because one person is slow at and giving me their information, but that should be processed hopefully by the end of the week as well. And then again, the little asterisk there is that we might have to add on an extra $1,000 for the government of Quebec if they eventually say we owe it. I filled out all my paperwork for them. They are currently reviewing it. It's been about 2 months. They haven't asked me any questions yet. I'm starting to think that they might have said we fall into the loophole and we're not going to have to pay. But now that I said that, they're probably going to email me tomorrow asking for the money. Concordia V Fairs, it was a clubs fair for Concordia. It obviously costed us no money. There was the COVID panel. This was climate, police, and COVID-19. It was a 3-person panel. We got 3 big names in there. We got Harsha Walia, Ellen Gabriel, and Sandy Hudson. We wanted big name people so that we could attract people's attention through the names. These are speakers that we would normally be out of budget for during a regular year because of the costs associated with it. And when I'm saying costs associated, I'm talking about renting a hall, renting plane tickets, renting hotel rooms, all that part. So these are normally speakers that we wouldn't be able to afford. But because this year we didn't have any of those costs, they kind of had like a weird dance where all the speakers charged a little more than they would regularly charge because they know that we have less costs on our end. So we ended up getting all of them in. The event was our most popular in terms of single event with people attending it. It was really, really good. Very nice overall. The Black Lives Matter panel also happened. This happened right before this one. It had some local activists from Montreal. So we had groups like Defund the Police Coalition come. We had the Hoodstock come. We also had Never Was Average come. They spoke about how they do local activism here in Montreal and the effects they have on... Does anyone hear my telephone?
Yeah.
Yep, that's Hannah Montana.
Oh, I know.
Yeah, yep. We're gonna just wait the 30 seconds for that thing to stop ringing. Yes, that was a Hannah Montana phone my sister got when she was about 12 years old, and it's been banished to my basement where I do my meetings from. Not
So
to
my
disturb my
question
family.
is, can't you switch it off? Like reject
There
it?
is no way to switch it off. There
Or
is
why-
no way to switch that thing off.
or why-
Jeremiah.
Take the batteries out.
I just like accept it, hang up, you know?
We unfortunately do need one phone working in the basement, and this is the one phone that we have in the basement.
Can you accept it to hang up? Like, you know what I mean?
Nope, you click the button to hang up, but it finishes the loop that it's on. So if it started the new, like,
Oh.
it's the best of both worlds, it will go through the entire, like, chorus and then stop.
I'm sure the engineer has broken down the phone and still couldn't find it.
Yes. Yeah. So the Black Lives Matter panel, we had 3 speakers come in, local activists. They spoke about what they do, some of the challenges they face, where they see it going. It was honestly an interesting talk because you normally hear of these social movements in a very high level way, and to have it broken down to you in things that you directly see and interact with was kind of different. We had an event with Whisk, which is one of the fee levy groups. They ended up not using any money for their event. They basically were giving out fun facts and statistics on refugees on campus, which was interesting. So they gave a real, because it's specific to Concordia, they gave many statistics and just information about how refugees are treated directly on campus as our students. The Link did a journalism workshop. So they taught the basics of how to do journalism, journalistic ethics. I'll note, and the Link made this very clear to me, is that when I offered, like the Link, I offered every fee levy group that participated $500. The Link said that they would refuse that money because they do not want to be in a conflict of interest with the CSU at any point to see like that they are taking money from the CSU. So right from the get-go, they told us they will do it for free, which they did. Same with Seed, and the refugee Seed did basically a workshop on international development. So if you ever wondered how charities work to go to developing countries and benefit the community. If you attended this, you would have a better understanding of what to do and how to go about it. Initially, the speaker that we had was going to charge us, but Seed somehow convinced them to do it for pro bono. So we got it for free. For that event, the refugee center gave basically a very large explanation of, like, as opposed to WUS giving the very specific what's going on currently on campus. The refugee center gave us like the high level overview of refugees in Canada and in Montreal. Again, they decided to do it for free also, which was good. The next two events are interesting. So CUTV was going to have an event. They were going to be actually our third event in our first week. CUTV decided to fire the employee who was supposed to do the event with us, and informed me a couple of days beforehand that the employee was no longer with them and that they would no longer be able to participate in the event. This caused a ton of headaches because obviously all our graphics and all our promotional material contained CUTV as part of the deal. And we had to basically redo all our graphics in one day to remove any mention of CUTV. They had initially charged us for the event, but after they canceled the event, I told them that I would not be reimbursing the costs since they're not doing the event. People's Potato was another event that did not happen, unfortunately. The reason it did not happen was because I did not get access to school when I requested access to school. We were supposed to film a cooking show with the People's Potato, but the school refused my access for this reason. So we could not actually go into the school, even though the People's Potato employees all work at the school. So that one also unfortunately got canceled. We held a LIC and Hojo event to introduce students to the services, which was very nice. We wanted to do an advocacy one, but advocacy was unfortunately just too busy to participate. The last three lines are faculty assistants. Faculty assistants, some of the faculties asked us for money, basically. They said, like us, they were unsure if they would be able to host their frosters throughout the year because of the fact that funding was up for grabs. And they basically asked if it was possible for them to get some assistance from the CSU. I thought that was a fair request. So I put aside some money for faculty assistance. I also have miscellaneous, basically whatever popped up. And if it wasn't tied to an event, I put $2,000 for miscellaneous. I only ended up using so far $32.99. There's a bit more coming through. And subscriptions, it became apparent that we might have to buy subscriptions to a few things. I put some money aside for subscriptions. We ended up buying only one subscription and it costed us $240. I had the option of also buying a few other subscriptions, but the prices were rather high, so I decided not to. And probably should have, because it gave me a lot of extra work. But yeah, in the end, we ended up spending so far. There's a few more, like I said, there's a few more expenses to come through, primarily in this line. There should be an expense. There should be some expenses on this line and potentially on this line that will come through. Not major expenses, but I'm still waiting on people to answer emails because they just generally don't answer my emails. And if they don't answer my emails, they don't get paid. So that's all that. One thing that's missing from this budget that people would normally recognize is the merchandise line. There's normally $40,000 associated with merchandise for the CSU. That did not exist this year. The reason it did not exist was in part because I wasn't sure how to, with the money situation earlier with funding not being secured, I did not know how much money to put towards merchandise. And the other thing is I kept on looking into ways to actually ship the merchandise to people's houses because of COVID restrictions. And we had a lot of problems with that. The best deal I found was $8 per package. And when I just did the math, it just didn't make sense. That's $8 per package without actually buying the merchandise. So when we went through the numbers, it just didn't make sense to do merchandise. It became apparent that it would just be too expensive and it wouldn't benefit enough students. So one of the sacrifices I did was removing merchandise from orientation. I've seen some of the faculty associations struggle with merchandise. So I'm happy I did that decision. As far as orientation planning, so this is all stuff I've already mentioned earlier in the fact that we got together, we talked about it. We couldn't start until way later, which was in May, not in May, in July, really planning because of the fact that a lot of rules were still up for grabs. Initially in the summer, the Quebec government put in-person events banned until August 31st. They didn't extend that until way later. So there was always a possibility that we might have gone back in person. But once it became apparent, which I think was towards the end of June, we started formally like thinking, okay, let's start working on the online thing. In July, we put in a lot of the brainstorming on how to transform our events that are very in-person into online things. Each event gave very tricky, very difficult to do that. But eventually we got a different sort of orientation occurring, but it was very different from last year's orientation because of the limitations of most of our events being in person, and fundamentally the fundamental breakdown of an event is based on social interactions face to face, which struggles. So like there would never be an open air pub event where we all get on the terrace on Reggie's. There's no way of transforming that into an online experience, right? Then the question became how to get these events shown to people in the online capacity. People were saying, so I looked into several different systems and called 3 different universities. So I called Seneca, I called Queens, and I called McGill, all to see how they're doing it. We looked at Zoom, Cisco WebEx, Google Hangouts, Google Meets, Microsoft Teams, and Skype as methods to actually getting these events to students. In the end, I chose YouTube. I thought the streaming culture that has been building up online and on YouTube was the best way for us to reach out to students instead of having them use these different things that they might not be familiar with, such as Microsoft Teams or Cisco's WebEx. That might even be tricky. And then we also were afraid of Zoom bombings. Zoom bombings is when someone joins the meeting, is just going to yell, is just going to say some hurtful comments, maybe put a video on the screen that is inappropriate. We were really worried about that. We were worried about the fact that people could just get kicked out and then rejoin under a different name. That actually happened to our council meeting where, was it last year or the beginning of this year, where someone would join the council meetings and started saying some anti-Semitic comments, I believe. And I believe Caitlin removed them, and then they came back and they said some other comments. It was a disaster. So I do not want that happening to our events, especially considering some of our events are political. We went around ways to ban that, and there's really no way, since there's 36,000 students and we can't make everyone an account. It would just be unfeasible. So one of the things that really worked for me was YouTube, because of the fact that to be on YouTube, you cannot comment or engage unless you're signing in on a Google account. Most people aren't going to go through the effort of making a Google account just to say something stupid. And the ones who are, I could easily ban them after 30 seconds, and it minimally disrupts the meeting because it's a comment as opposed to actually sound or visual. That was one of the things. The other thing about YouTube was it's stable. Like we seen earlier, there's some issues where people get their screens freeze, or they get kicked from the meeting, or they have trouble connecting. That's not usually something that occurs at YouTube. It's a very stable platform. Otherwise, YouTube also allows us to live stream and pre-record, which would have helped some groups who didn't want to do it live stream or weren't able to. The other thing I want to mention is that to do YouTube, having multiple people streaming at once, we need to buy the subscription to StreamYard, which is the one subscription I mentioned above. In the end, I think that little extra subscription was worth it. And here I just wrote down all the benefits we had. So unlimited stream time, as opposed to like say Zoom, where you'd have to buy an account, or else after 40 minutes you're out. You could have unlimited people watching the event, so there's no like room capacity. Pre-recording live streaming allows users to participate anonymously. So another thing that I forgot to mention is that a lot of people are shy to join a Zoom room because it's very personal. You see the person's name, you see the person's face. some people are hesitant to do that. That's why we went to YouTube. Another reason is that on YouTube, you could just participate in the event without anyone knowing you're there. Another thing we were worried about is people stalking people through Zooms. I remember that came up in my conversations with Dean of Students. So this helped by taking away that opportunity. You could just enjoy the event, you could listen, you could watch, no questions asked. You could talk to the chat, stable, and again, disruption could be attended to minimally. And the downsides were that yes, I had to pay for an external program. And the other thing was that it limited the means of engagement. So the engagement was really limited to comments and texts based. I'm going to just give the little trigger warning just to show you some of the issues that we did run into with our events. Only 3 of our events were hit with disruptive behavior. One of them was bots. They hit the legal information clinics event updating the immigration regulations of Quebec. Bots kept on spamming the event, trying to put malicious links up that you would click on, thinking that you would be getting assistance, but it wasn't. It was attended to very quickly. We got no complaints, so I don't think anyone actually fell for it. It took less than a few minutes for us to jump on. We had the whole comms department going on it, and we were banning all the bots and blocking them from engaging in the future. Now, the little trigger warning I want to say is some of the remarks regarding our Black Lives Matter and our police, climate, and COVID panel. So you'll see some of the inappropriate remarks. You have Domino B here, who wrote this. Now, there's nothing wrong with the Democrats will lose Trump 2020, but the WWG1 WGA is basically a saying for QAnon, that group of questionable people who put out very hurtful comments. Then you're gonna have this one here, Rodney Rothschild, who wrote, "Today I donate my watch, phone, and $500 to a BLM supporter. You wouldn't believe the happiness I felt as he slid the pistol back into his pockets. I don't need to explain that this is inappropriate. It obviously is. Again, this is something we banned very quickly within seconds when we see it come up. The other thing here, we have this one here who's claiming Black Lives Matter is all terrorists. These were again on the Black Lives Matter events. As you could see, the thing with these ones here is that they tried multiple times to put their things, but it doesn't work. We were able to remove them quickly. And the one thing I guess that was sad about seeing these comments is because our links are not widely circulated to CR events. Yes, they're open to public, but very few people actually do know of them, is that these are people that are actively following the CSU, and we do know them most likely, whoever is putting these fake names up, because of the fact that these are circulated only within our own little community. And that's unfortunate. Events. So the other thing I want to say with events, and in this section, I just give a little brief description of each event, is we officially hosted 13 events for orientation, which are described. We unofficially also hosted more. The reason for this is because, and I'll just slide because these are all the events I already spoke about, but I'll slide to the ones we didn't officially host, which are these ones here. So when we were planning to do the Black Lives Matter events and the panels, it became apparent that many groups on campus were all trying to do the same thing. And we just all sat down and said, listen, we're all trying to do the same thing. Let's not all step on each other's toes, and let's all split up the work evenly. So as you can see, there's some events, like I'll go to a Black Lives, Police, Climate, and COVID. We have ASA, Sustainable, and Concordia. We basically came to an agreement with these 3 groups that no matter what we do, we're all gonna put each other's name on it, and we're all gonna pay for our own events, even though we're all separate. So they got their name on our events, and we got our names on all their events. So we have Sustainable Concordia's anti-oppression event. We had our name on it. We had these 2 big talks hosted by ASFA, which we also got our name on, which was excellent. We got our name on the entirety of the QPERG disorientation as well. So yeah, we basically were able to unofficially also host several other events. Particularly these 2 were of significant note. And this is not to say we didn't work with the groups. I helped write the questions for these two events, as did they help me write questions for my events. We basically all collaborated, but just to say that we did not put money towards these events, but we still were considered hosting these events. Other than that, as I said, we have the yoga, we have the working through a pandemic with Ojo, we have working out and healthy eating with Concordia Recreation, the LIC's updates to Quebec immigration law, the refugees in Montreal with the Refugee Center, refugee sponsorship on campus with WISC, the police climate and COVID-19 with everyone, journalism for everyone with the link, international development with SEED, Concordia's Got Talent with ASA, CASA, ECA, and FASA. Just a slight note I would like to say is that we had 14,000 votes in this, or just under. We had 13,000, not 13,000. We had 1,398 votes in this competition. Just to show you, the election that just passed had 1,700 people voting. So this was very big for our standards. Black Lives Matter event with everyone, becoming a radio DJ with CJLO, and then we also have the clubs fair that is currently ongoing. In the end, the conclusion is that we approximately had 3,000 students participate in all our events over the month of September. We got about 1,500 for students for all our events, and this is again not including these ones here, which got significant event people to each of them. So that comes out to just under 100 students per each event, just over, 100 students per every event attended, which is surprisingly very good numbers for an online event. And the other thing is that because all these events are recorded on YouTube, you could continue going back and seeing them over and over again, which I guess does technically skew the numbers, because I do know some people emailed me saying, can I watch the event the next day? So they weren't actually at the event, but they were just watching the event the day after. So yeah, so that's basically it. In all, the report, there's not really too much to report, unfortunately, in terms of paperwork, because of the fact that everything was online and we don't have much to talk about. But yeah, I guess for that, I will go to the questions.
All right, thank you, Eduardo, for that comprehensive presentation. Do we have any questions or comments? If not, we just need a motion to approve the report.
Motion to approve the report.
Thank you, Daniel. Seconded by Shivani. Is there any opposition to approving the orientation report? Opposition going once, twice. Okay, so that is approved unanimously. Is there anything else you wanted to say, Eduardo?
I would just want to thank some people. Obviously, I want to thank the executives for always being around when helping me with these things. A lot of these events were either brainstormed with executives or directly, like I'm looking at Daniel now just because he's on my screen, but like Daniel working with the clubs and getting them all out to do these videos. But yeah, so a lot of the executives helped around. I know Isaiah helped me when I was very last minute getting me another speaker, which I was freaking out at the time because we had both People's Potato and CUTV going down. I would also want to thank, obviously, the counselors who helped out with the events. There was a few of you that all messaged me and gave me input and helped around. And if there's anyone else to thank, I think is the most important would be the communications department. As I said, we didn't get employees this year. I put all of the work on by default on my back, but in turn, the communication then department all took extra work on their back as well to go through with it and support me, especially when they seen things were not going the best. When CUTV did cancel last minute and we had to get all the graphics done in one day, that was a day where the department hustled. They all got together and they really they put in a lot of hours to make sure the work was done, because they realized we were in a pickle. And I tell them that many times, how thankful I am for them. But I would like to also mention it here for the work they did do.
All right, thank you, Eduardo. So if there's nothing further on this, then we have point 6, which is appointments, and hopefully we can blast through these pretty fast and then get to the returning and substantive business. So these 3 were on the agenda last meeting as well. and no one nominated themselves. So if nobody nominates themselves, they can also go to after the by-elections for new councillors. It's up to council. So the sponsorship ad hoc committee, Victoria, this one's yours. Victoria?
Point of information.
Yes.
Can we before we go through, I guess, each one of these things, can we ask if there's any just interest in general for any counselor to appoint themselves to a committee?
Sure. And there's also the possibility of moving, just kind of doing an omnibus motion to make all of them come back after by-elections for new councillors too, if that's something council's interested in. So we have the sponsorship ad hoc, the fee levy review committee, and the library services fund committee. Is there anyone who's interested in nominating themselves to any of them?
Point of information, isn't there Loyola also?
Did we not fill Loyola last? I thought we got the 2 seats last time.
No.
Aren't there 4 seats?
I see Jared, Sean, and but I don't see anybody else.
Well, Yasmin, Jared, Sean, and Yasmin are on Loyola, so it's only 1 seat. So
oh, we might have moved to knock it to after by-elections.
So yeah, so I was just gonna, in the same spirit, like if nobody wants these, we can just wait till after by-elections and then ask the councillors to come in. Otherwise, if anybody.
That's fair. Does anyone want to nominate themselves to any of the committees? Okay, if not, let me just get, sorry, my dog's barking. Anyone, sorry, I can just get some wording. Be it resolved
That the appointments of the sponsorship ad hoc committee, fee levy review committee, and library service fund committee be pushed to after the by-elections.
Do we want to add Loyola in there too?
Well, we could, but I think we already did.
Yeah, I think we did last week. Services. And there was also the Senate as well that we had postponed indefinitely. I don't know if we want to deal with that after
so you can
by-elections.
Sarah, after by-elections or?
Yes, after by-elections, please.
Okay. Library services. Okay, so that is this. So that's, are you okay with that wording, Isaiah?
Yep, that works.
Okay, do we have a second for the motion?
Second.
Second by Daniel. Is there any opposition to the motion on the screen? Opposition going once, twice. Okay, so that carries unanimously. So those committees will come back after by-election. So that will be the December 10th or 12th meeting, I think is the first one. December 9th, sorry, neither of them. And we will appoint then. So if there's nothing else on appointments, then we can move on to returning business, and we'll.
Before we start that, can we take a quick break?
Sure. Does anyone have any idea of how long we want to take a break?
10 minutes, maybe?
10 minutes? Is there a second for 10 minutes?
Seconded.
Second. Okay, is there any opposition to 10 minutes? All right, folks, so we'll reconvene at 9:08.
win that back because you deserve to go to seminary next year. I ain't getting that money back.
All right, folks, so it is 9:09 and we will reconvene. At this point, we are at, where are we at? All right, we will go back in time 2 months to the Appointments Committee minutes of August 27th. And it was Hirsch, you had pulled these.
I assure you I didn't.
Nope. Oh, no, yes, no, this was right, this was about the appointment, sorry. My mistake. This was the appointment to the external committee that had not been ratified. And it ended up being tabled. Let me just pull up the exact report. Right, so it was this part here that had not been ratified. It was the appointment of Sean Howard to the External and Campaigns Committee. So at this point, to start discussion, if somebody could make a motion to ratify, and then we'll go from there.
Okay, sorry, I stepped away.
Oh, sorry, yeah, Hertz, go ahead.
Closed session if we are going to discuss candidate details.
Yeah, that's fair. Do we have a second for closed session?
Second.
Second by Isaiah. Is there any opposition to going into closed session? Okay, so if there is none, then I will pause the recording, and I just ask anyone who's not executive counsel, JB, myself, or the minute keeper to please step out, and we will invite you back in when we're out of closed session.